anyway. I'm sure you brought. So that's all I can expect.
Hey, 2 out of 3, right?
That's right, the other stuff, don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah, you. Presentation.
Good afternoon. It is now 3 p.m. on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. I'd like to call the Community Impact Grants Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Pugh,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Barron, Mackey,
Here.
English.
Here, present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Also want to make sure we acknowledge some of our council members who decided to attend our meeting today. We have Councilwoman Tish Dozier Aileen and Councilwoman Allison Terratio. Thank you for being here. Next is item 2, approval of minutes from April 29th, 2025.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next is the adoption of the agenda. Administrator Brown, do we have any additions this evening?
I've received a request for changes.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron, Mackey,
Yes.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. So we are at item number 4, items for discussion and action. 4A is the fiscal year 2025 review. And do we have a member of staff present? I'm looking for Brittany. No. Okay. ACA Thomas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
If you will, pages 7 and 8 in your documents is an overview of the community impact grants and the amounts that expended and those that were not expended by the individual groups. Of that, there were 29 awardees this year. We had 28 that are fully compliant and have completed all of their requirements as of August 31st. And I'm happy to answer any questions related to that.
Want to make sure the committee sees this report. We appreciate staff providing. If you see page 7 and 8, I think this gives a good reflection of the amount that folks asked for and then what they actually utilized as we look future funding. So thank you for providing this. And yes, you're recognized.
ACA Thomas, I know we talked about this during the budget season, especially when it came to allocating funds to certain groups. Do we know how many of these people are continuing to not be in compliance?
This year, there is only one organization that is not compliant. That was as of August 31st. I can't say that as of today they are not. We're happy to provide you all with a list of those individuals if you would like. Thank you.
All right, there's no further questions related to the financial report. We're going to move on to the next item, which is the overview. ACA Thomas, you recognize?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. On the following 8 pages or so, up till page 16, there is an overview of a few of the programs. I think it's about 6 or 7 programs that we actually sponsored this past year. We did a call for organizations, giving them the opportunity to provide us with photographs and descriptions of their projects and impact areas. So those are just for your review. You can actually see some of the organizations that we funded and what the funds were used for and the outcomes.
Thank you so much, ACA Thomas. We appreciate the organizations that responded and provided this information. This really is, I think, when, at least I will speak for myself, I won't speak for the body, but we thought about ways to really give back to the community through the community impact grants. This is an example of being able to truly see the impact, and even looking at, for example, the Latino Communications CDC, how they're feeding folks in our community, and they actually have the data and the numbers to show the difference that they've made, and looking at Mercy and how they've helped folks with mental illness in the community. So this, I think, is really important for us to see how, when we do provide the grants, what it does in our community. So thank you for being able to highlight some of these organizations that have provided the information.
Great. Happy to take any questions.
All right, ACA Thomas, I think we're good. We appreciate that update.
Thank you.
Yep, so next is item 4B. If you turn to page 17 of your packet, that is the look at our fiscal year 2027 application. So just to remind everyone where we are, the report we just received was from fiscal year 2025. We are currently in fiscal year 2026, where we have awarded funds, and so we will get continuous updates on those as those folks receive and spend the money. But we are now at the time where we need to think about fiscal year 2027 and the grant application and what that looks like. This is really, I wanted to make sure we start this process with enough time to have the conversations, but also make the necessary changes that we need, because this grant cycle will open on December 1st. And we are at the time period now where we have things that we need to really set parameters for. The community partners list is one of those. We decided as a council that our community partners would receive a 3-year commitment, I would say, or agreement or selection or whatever you want to call it. We're at the end of that 3-year mark, which means they are all open to be reevaluated. That means that they could stay on the list, they could leave the list, or the community could decide that there is no list anymore and that we will go a different way in how we fund community organizations. And so in your packet, starting on page 17, you'll see that there are highlighted areas that I want to walk through as we talk about changes that we would like to see. But before I open up the floor and for conversation, or before I walk through this, I want to open up the floor for conversation to see if anybody has any initial thoughts or comments that they want to share related to the overall community impact grant process. All right, hearing none. Starting on page 17, as you see at the top in red, our grant cycle will open on December 1st, 2025. That date cannot change. That is the date that we have always used, and it also aligns with our other grants. And so we want to keep everything on that same grant cycle. Applications will be submitted through our Zoom grants with a deadline of February 1st, 2026. All those things need to stay in alignment so that we can meet our deadline for budget submittal. Going to the next section of a program description, you'll see numbers highlighted in yellow. For previous funding years, we have set aside up to $1 million. So the value of $1 million has been set aside that we will fund our community impact grants. That is the dollar amount that we use. As we know, the value of the meal is set each year by our auditor, and so that amount may change, but these are the numbers that we start with. The first number is the overall number, and then we've separated it to where we would have up to 60% of that amount will be allocated to identified community partners, and then up to 40% will be allocated for competitive grants. And so I wanted to begin with this section to get feedback and thoughts on this value set aside and the breakdown of 60-40. And do we want to reconsider that? I think we've gone through a few cycles now and we've seen the process play out. And we really need to decide, is this the best breakdown? Is this the best funding model moving forward? Councilman Livingston, you're recognized.
Actually, I'm certainly open to, other suggestions and so forth, but I'm pleased with the way it worked out in the past. I think we've got some institutions that have tremendous significant impact with the group of large contributors. So I'm okay with it staying the way it is with the percentage-wise.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Any other thoughts?
This is Councilwoman Barron. I agree with
Recognize.
Mr. Livingston.
Thank you.
Well,
Yes, ma'am, you recognize Ms. English?
thank you. I agree with Mr. Livingston. One of the things I really want to be careful about is those that are not in compliant, to make sure if they're not in compliant that they come off our partner list and go, if that makes any sense.
That does, and like I said, this meeting today, this meeting today, so whoever has been identified as community partners, this process starts, there is no guarantee that they're a community partner. This process right now starts, that we will identify what that looks like. We may or may not have community partners, or they may or may not be on the list. That is what happens right now with this process that we need to establish. So definitely think that's something we should take into consideration as we determine what that looks like. So this is just discussion, no action has been taken at this point, but as we stated, the program description has been funding up to 1 meal with a 60-40% breakdown. Turn to page 18. The next highlighted area is our key impact areas. In the past, we've looked at programs to promote home ownership through education and financial planning, youth activities to reduce community violence, improve safety, and develop workforce skills, programs to create sustainable childcare for working parents to further workforce development, food insecurity, veterans assistance to improve health and wellness. We've had these impact areas, and so at this point, they will have been around for 3 cycles. And I think it is important for us to look at these areas and determine, when we began this process, we were in a different place as a county. And I think we need to evaluate where we are now and where we want to go in the future, and if some areas maybe want to change. Not saying that all these areas aren't important, but the purpose is to really make an impact in key areas. And so I do think we need to look at this list and evaluate ones that need to be removed and really think about what areas we would like to continue to focus in, or new ones that we may want to add. You recognize?
I think focusing on these key impact areas have been clutch for us when it comes to these impact grants. But what I would like to see is, I would like to see us do a little bit more vetting, because we had a lot of people that was applying for these grants in multiple categories. And so I just don't think it's fair for organizations to be able to receive funds from multiple categories, and it kind of puts everybody else out that are not able to apply for these grants. Am I making any sense with
You
that?
are, and I would say I think maybe one of the things that we can look at changing in our applications, that you can only select one.
Right.
Because I think we have not stipulated that your program has to be focused in one area. We've kind of left it open and people do multiple. And so if that's something we want to consider, where we're saying you only need to pick one, and that needs to be the primary source. I see ACA Thomas at the mic. ACA Thomas, you're recognized.
If I may.
Yes.
Last year, we did add a question to the application. It's number 5 on the application in your package. Which impact area will your project primarily serve? They had to choose only one there. They were able to select additional impact areas, so if we prefer, we can remove that second question.
Madam,
Recognized.
I want to make sure, understanding, Councilman, are you saying more than, not necessarily one area, but more than one pot from Richland County? Or just for the grants?
I was just speaking about the actual grant process. Because when you look at the grant process, I think we were looking at it when we was doing our budget this past year. And we had certain organizations that were receiving money for, say for instance, for activities for youth. And then they were turning around and they were getting money for food insecurities. And then they turn around and then they was getting money for something else too, so.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to, I see you, Ms. Barron. I'm going to ask a clarifying question, then you're next. Just to make sure, because when you said that, Ms. English, now you had me thinking. So to make sure, this conversation, we've been talking about impact areas as it relates to community impact grant. But were you saying, Vice Chair Pugh, that you didn't think these organizations should get funding from community impact grant, from hospitality, from accommodations, or are you specifically just talking about community impact?
Just specifically
Okay.
talking about impact.
Just want to make sure. All right. Thank you. Councilwoman Barron?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the priorities. I would like to see us add something in reference to workforce development or employability skill training. And I think because we've covered, or we're attempting to cover with affordable housing, we could omit the home ownership through education and financial planning.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barron. I hear that you would want to consider removing home ownership, but then looking at workforce development.
That's
Training.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Council, I'm sorry, Ms. Barron, was that the end of your comment before I call on someone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Livingston?
I had something similar to that I want to add, but it was kind of worded a little different, but it'll work either way. And I was more concerned about job skill training, and even getting someone who can focus on, things like some of the soft skills, time management, attendance, those things we take for granted. And the reason why a lot of folks can't stay employed or get employed today, I'd like to have somebody working on those kind of things and submit an application to deal with some of that.
I would say with the workforce, I'm not opposed to that. I would like to really do some more research on that. I feel, and I don't, like I said, I'm using the word feel because I don't have stats in front of me. I feel like there's already a lot of organizations that the county is already funding to do workforce development and these skills. And so I guess I'm looking at areas that if they're already getting a lot of money from the county in other areas, if we then also put it here, is that necessary, or do we need to maybe look at what they're doing in other areas? So I guess the workforce training piece, I have a little bit more questions about, and what's already done, and are we really helping move the needle by adding it here as well, or if we really need to look at what we're already giving. Councilwoman Barron, I see your hand, but I don't know if that's a new hand or the same hand from before. Okay. Any further discussion on key impact areas?
So can
Oh,
we,
yes, Mr.
so
Livingston.
can we agree to just figure out a way to do some kind of assessment in terms of what's going on now, so we won't duplicate it if we decide to do something with these funds?
I think we could. I mean, we're having conversation right now, so I think if there's any type of action somebody wants to make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, my concern isn't so much the job itself. Remember, I'm saying the soft skills is what I want to make sure we work on. I think there's a lot of things.
Any further, area or key impact areas? I do agree with Councilwoman Barron as it relates to removing, the home ownership piece. I do think, with the 3 years of funding, in addition to the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee and the money we set aside there, I do feel as if that's an area that we can remove, so I do agree with that.
With that as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
is it appropriate to take action at this point?
I'm open anytime somebody wants to. Like I said, I was opening it for discussion so people could talk it out. And then I felt if people felt strongly, we could take action today, or if they needed time to think, I'm okay too. So if you feel good, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to include for 2027 key impact areas to include workforce training and or education, youth activities to reduce community violence, to improve safety and development work skills. So essentially, so I don't read all of these. I'm just want to approve the key impact areas, omitting the first bullet and adding employability skills training, workforce training, however we want to phrase it. But I think Councilman Livingston and myself have the same idea as far as what we'd like to include. That's my motion, if it's clear.
Second for discussion.
Motion is second for discussion. Based upon those two, and you look at the youth activities, that ends with and develop workforce skills. And then, I guess, tell me, is there a need to add a whole new bullet? Does develop workforce skills not address what it is that you all are wanting?
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
So with that, I think that I think I still want to leave the youth activities, and we can, and I'm fine with omitting the workforce skills at the end. I'm fine with omitting that, but I do think that we do want to address youth activities as we've done in the past.
Councilman Livingston?
I just want to make the point that my problem with the second bullet was that youth activity, I thought was only referring to youth. And my thing was everybody.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so absolutely, Councilman Livingston. That's why I'd like to omit that portion at the end of bullet 2 and noting that the new bullet will include youth and adults, everyone, as you stated.
Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am. You recognize?
I'm not confused, but I guess I need a clarity when it comes to not necessarily youth activities, but when we say use community violence, for me, that is youth and adults, as everybody in the community. Improve safety, that's everybody in the community, as well as workforce skills, developing those skills. And I know we have that under youth, but I'm still kind of torn because everything under youth is related to everybody, all ages.
It is related to everybody. I think this is saying key impact areas. And so we know within the county, we do have a lot of areas and a lot of issues that impact youth, elderly, and, us, normal age people. But I was being polite.
You all right?
Okay, all right.
Especially if you included me.
I did. I included. See how I was generic. I covered all age ranges that are not youth but are not elderly. Thank you. And so, but I think the purpose of community impact grants is to establish key impact areas that we want to focus on. And so the more specific that we can be, the better it is that helps us to then get organizations to apply. And then we fund programs that help move the needle in a specific area. And so when we're broad and say everybody, it's harder to really evaluate the impact that we make. And so we focusing on youth is something that is more targeted. And I think that's why we've seen it spelled out that way. And even when you look at the next one, we looked at childcare for working parents to further, we were very specific in how, because everybody does need child, but we were very specific in how we wanted to define it. Now, food insecurity, we were very generic about. We were not targeted in the area in which we wanted to impact. And so I think we, need to really think about what that looks like. And that's what I was saying. I would like to actually see kind of more information about what the county is already doing in the workforce area, because I do feel like we probably are already doing a lot. And if we're going to be generic in funding workforce, I think we should probably have more conversations. Mr. Livingston was leaning more into the soft skills of work, which is more targeted, which I get. So we can easily look and say, yes, we may be funding 10 other organizations in workforce, but maybe none of them are addressing soft skills. And then I get what Mr. Livingston saying. That's a target area. That's not technical skills. That's not, certifications. It's soft skills, which is different. So I could be open to research that shows that's an area where we need to focus on.
And that's exactly my point. One of the things I don't feel like we should take away from the second bullet, just to add something else, just add it on its own so that it can stand alone, if that makes sense. So, okay.
Any further discussion? I will say, like the food insecurity piece, I do think we should be a little bit more targeted in that and what we want to see, and maybe more targeted in organizations and how they are funding. Food insecurity covers so many categories. I think it would be good for us to maybe narrow that down in a little more, so we can see a return, whether that's focusing in on a certain area or age demographic or income level. I don't know, but I think so many organizations can check the box for food insecurity that I think we could be a little bit more targeted.
Mississippi, it can even be fresh vegetables. I don't know, but just something, that you folks are getting something, learn something that's not being done now, My pardons, I don't know.
All right, well, Ms. Barron made a motion and we had a lot of discussion in between.
That motion only applied to the first two bullets, correct?
Ms. Barron,
Yes.
that was you heard Mr. Livingston's question?
I was saying, yes, I'm here.
I know. I think he was saying,
Yes.
he was saying yes to his question.
I was saying your motion is only applied, you're applying that to the first two bullets.
That is correct, sir.
We have a request. Could you repeat?
Sure. So my motion would be to omit the existing bullet number 1, to omit it altogether, replace it with workforce, job training, kind of marrying my statement earlier with Mr. Livingston's, and I'll leave that to staff to kind of wordsmith it, and then making the change to bullet number 2, and then leaving it as it is, but omitting the last portion, which is develop workforce skills. Everything else remains the same.
All right, hearing no further discussion.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, Attorney Wright.
Yes, I just think that for the minutes and the record, we kind of, I guess, need to know exactly what the motion is. As far as like, we understand, I guess delete the first bullet, but what is going to be the bullet that you're replacing it with? What are you saying? Because we have to put it in the minutes in the record.
Madam Chair,
Yes, you're recognized.
I thought that's what I did when I said I'm omitting the first bullet and replacing it with workforce job training. Do I need to read every bullet for the
No.
record?
No, my understanding of what you were saying is that you wanted staff to wordsmith it to get it right. So, but if that's what you're saying, just that portion, that's fine.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And to be clear, the wordsmith that I'd like for staff to do is what is the proper terminology? Is it workforce development training? Is it job training? Is it job readiness? There's so many words or so many terms that overlap there. And so I'm pretty sure, based upon previous conversation, that we will still need to have some examples like we have within the document. What is job readiness or workforce development? What is that? So that we can then further streamline it. But for this initial motion, I'd like the categories to remain as I stated.
Does that help for the record? I hear that's not clear. Okay.
It's not clear?
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, so we are omitting the first bullet and replacing it with workforce training.
Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, can you take the vote, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English. Motion approved.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next parts of the application. We go through the application packet itself, which is all standard. We do have our application evaluation where you see a breakdown of points, which we've been used and it's agreed upon, it's been standard. And then we have on page 20, our deadlines, which we already covered, that they will go through Zoom grant, and the deadline is Sunday, February 1st. Moving on to page 21, we have award notification and then payment procedures. Noting, again, that funding may only be requested on a quarterly basis. That's just a reminder that helps us to track and ensure we don't give all the money to grant recipients up front at one time. This allows us to have a more fiscal responsibility as we work with organizations that were awarded grants. Our reporting requirements are still listed in a standard. And then as we get to page 22, we have our community partners list, where we have 9 organizations that have been a part of the community partners list for 3 years. And we're at the time now to reevaluate this. And so really want to open this up for conversation and discussion. As I stated, the community partners list, which I believe we all can agree, since we started the community impact grants committee and awarding grants, there's been a lot of question from organizations on how do you get on the community partners list. And I think it is crucial before this next application goes out that we need to be able to answer that question. And so it is very important for us to understand what makes a community partner. how are we describing that, and clearly making sure that we're describing that? And then what does that look like as far as number or funding? And do we need community partners? Do we want everything to just be competitive? I think, as I said again, that we need to be more clear and direct in what it means to be a community partner. Open for any other thoughts or questions related to the community partners list. Okay, well, okay,
Madam
great.
Chair?
It was very quiet. It was, Mr. Livingston, did you want to go or you want to?
No, I'll wait.
Okay, he'll wait. Ms. Barron?
Yes, so I agree with you that I think we need to have some specific criteria. I think that I'd like to see this body put forth some ideas as to what that is, or what we believe is the criteria, maybe giving everyone an opportunity to do so within the next week or so, and then come to a consensus on how to clearly define it. I'm also very strong. I feel very strongly about if we cannot come up with a consensus of how to define this group of people, then perhaps we should not have it. Because I agree that it is very difficult for us to say, well, there are community partners solely on the premise because they've been doing work in the community for, 40 years or 50 years. Longevity does not always equate to quality and excellence. So I'm putting forth the idea of us as a committee or even as a council to create a list or create criteria that says this is how you meet the criteria or this is how you become a community partner.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Councilman Livingston?
I think it's really important for us when we look at community partners to try to figure out a way to look at the extent to which they provide a service that's not currently provided or limitedly provided. Is what I think would be real important. At least when I evaluate them, I want to see somebody who's done something that's probably not provided, or they provide the same thing, but in a very unique way. I think it's real important. Secondly, I would like to figure out how I could get an idea of reference to current ones that I'm looking at, if I'm going to review them again, a way to evaluate what they've currently done or what are the current deliveries and stuff like that. How can we figure out the impact they've really had over the previous 3 years? It's really important to me. And thinking about how I do that too, but I think we need to figure out a way to do it. But again, most important for me is I want those agencies that, like I said, that are providing a service that I think is.
We have Councilwoman English, then Councilwoman Aileen.
One of the things I'm looking at is how do they line up with our county if we're mission focused? Also lining up with a strategic plan, and again, what Paul says is the county-wide impact. And when they're turning those grants in, one of the things that I saw that I was very impressed with were those pictures, the stories that they tell. That speaks volumes. And the reason I say that, a lot of people are looking at, well, what are you doing? Pictures show 1,000 words. I mean, it speaks volumes to actually how the funds are being spent, what you're doing, the community impact, especially when you go out there and you're part of that and you see and you hear what people are saying and how it changes. So I'd like to see kind of what Paul says, the impact of what they're doing in the community. And that's it.
Councilwoman Aileen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comment is geared more toward whether or not we should get rid of the community partners. Because to me, make it a free-for-all, and you risk spreading your resources so thin that you're not able to make an impact in the area that you want to address. So I agree that there should be some clarity in terms of defining what a community partner is and how an organization can become one. I don't think you should.
Vice Chair Pugh and then Councilwoman Newton.
I totally agree with my colleagues about making it a free-for-all. I think we have some great community partners. One of the biggest things that, like I mentioned earlier, is I would like to see how many of these folks have been incompliant in the past 3 years as far as turning and making sure they turn in their paperwork. I don't think as a partner of the community partners, we should have to run behind people to get documentation in order for them to be able to receive the funds. So that's one of something that I think we definitely need to look at when we're evaluating whether or not we're going to continue with the community partners or how we choose the community partners. But I do think that we need to stick with the community partners.
I just want to clarify just two things. Just so we know for the record, it's not a free-for-all. We do have an application process that everybody does go through, and it is vetted, and they have to meet certain requirements for giving funds. But it is an open, competitive process. I want folks to know it's not just like a free-for-all and we're passing it all out. Clarify, but I know what you meant, but I just want to make sure.
Just for the
that-
record.
Just for the record, so nobody walks away thinking that's what's happened. There is truly an application process, folks are vetted, and everyone on this community partners list had to follow the application process and had to submit all documentation before being awarded. So they did check that box. Councilwoman Newland.
Thank you. And you started where I wanted to start. And if I could just double down a little bit on that, even if community partners were eliminated, there still wouldn't be a free-for-all, because I would argue our competitive grants are more competitive. The community partners actually sets aside funding that says, if nobody else gets anything, you're going to get something. And so thank you for that. So 2 comments, well, 3. Glad that we're having this conversation, because I've been troubled by how we handle our community partners for a while, understanding that this has been an evolving process where we're trying to figure out what is the best way to do what we want to do. And so I really agree with exception of that little language, everything that people have said in terms of having a different type of criteria if we're going to have community partners. One of the things that I would like to add for our consideration, and I would love it if it could even be a topic of conversation at our retreat, is if there's going to be such a thing as community partners, I would love it if we considered having our community partners move us forward in a strategic area that we're working on for the county. So hypothetically, if we say affordable housing is our #1 priority, or access to childcare, or equitable infrastructure, kind of a different angle from what Councilwoman English was saying, but that we see what could we do if we really concentrated our investments. Because the other thing that's true about our community partners is there's not an organizing principle in terms of the area that they work in. There's theoretically an organizing principle in terms of their relationship with us, but you could do one thing and you could do something totally different. And so I would love to see the concentrated power of the county to address some issues. And I think this is an opportunity where we could explore that. If not just with the community partners, we could do that as a pilot 1 year for all of our grants. We could say this is the year that Richland County tries to tackle XYZ. And I would love to see that kind of alignment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Newton, and I think that is a very timely comment. As you know, we are all in our refresh period of our strategic plan, and so I think that is a good angle in which to look at how we incorporate our strategic plan and utilizing county funds to make sure that they are in alignment. So thank you for that suggestion. I think it's very timely in where we're at in our process. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate the thoughtfulness that everybody's had coming into this, and I really do appreciate the idea of the community partners. I remember before, and there, it was not a free for all, but it was a feeling that if I forget,
Just a fall. No.
you know, if I forget to put in, you know, for this person or that entity or whatever, that, something might fall through the cracks. So this is a really strategic way to look at it. And I love the idea of, really concentrating our power in one place and our efforts in one place. I will say to that, though, that there will always be people who need, you know, meals and a bed and whatever it is. So I would hope that even if we do decide to really make an impact in one particular area, that we won't forget that there are going to kind of always be certain needs that I'd like to see us put an effort toward.
Thank you, Ms. Teratio. I think
Okay.
I hear you, and I think I would say I hope that whatever that area is, if it's not addressed in key impacts, that we do look at how to include that in our strategic plan. Because if we're saying we feel so strongly about something, then I think maybe we need to discuss that a little more and what that area
Sure.
may bring, and then what role is Richland County expected to play in that.
Right. So maybe if I could just be more specific or think it through out loud a little bit with you all. You know, so let's just say that if we do think of housing as our number one issue, the thing that is the most important to our constituents, that, you know, in the area of, you know, feeding homebound folks or elderly folks, we don't fall off in that area, because just because we put an effort toward moving the needle with housing doesn't mean that there's still not, you know, I think some basic things that folks still care about.
No, I agree.
Okay.
And I would say, I think this body has done a good job of doing that right now. We've established an affordable housing ad hoc committee that didn't exist before to truly address that issue, right? While still carrying on with our community impact grants. And so that's, I think if there are areas like that we all feel that, then maybe there is a deeper dive, which is what we did with the affordable housing, right? Where we made a whole different committee and we're addressing it and tackling it in that way. And so if there's another area, I think that's something we look at in our strategic plan, and how do we then tackle that?
Childcare?
Yes, as you know, that is one of my passions. Councilwoman Newton.
Thank you. Just to acknowledge Councilwoman Teracio's remarks, because they were in part in response to mine. I don't see division in those two comments. For me, it's just a question of us saying, this is what we're focusing on and being able to show that. I think right now, again, the logic behind some of our grants is broader. And so I just would like to see us be clearer, and it can be one thing, it can be 5 things, it can be 3 things. But also to your point, I think that there is an opportunity for us to look at our strategic plan, because the thing that we all acknowledge, but is worth saying out loud, is we will never fund all of the worthy nonprofits in Richland County. There's not one single day where we will ever be able to do that. There will always be 50 wonderful groups with great data, great results that we're not helping. And so just having that really clear rationale for what we're doing is what I think will be more helpful. And also, even if we did choose that approach, I'm not saying that we'd even be bound by it forever. There could be seasons for it. It could be a pilot to see what works. I think there are a lot of ways. So I'm just echoing the harmony that I feel with my colleagues, even if it sounds like I'm saying something different. I really haven't heard anything from any of my colleagues that I disagree with in terms of the approach. And I think it's all towards us being more thoughtful.
Thank you. And I wanted to take a quick moment and recognize a few council members that have joined us that aren't on the committee. Councilwoman Little, thank you, and Councilman Weaver, thank you for joining us. Yeah, yes, and Ms. Barron's been here, but now she's here in the building, so thank you. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness and the comments, and I think seeing so many of my colleagues show up that are not on the committee and actually show up and participate, I think speaks to how we all feel about making sure that we're giving back to the community and that we all want to get it right and really create a system that works for all of our organizations. So thank you all for just being here and participating and having the conversation. And I see Councilwoman Little has her hand up. You recognize?
Madam Chair, just one of the questions that I want to ask is, with the community partners, are we gonna make sure that, will they roll off after a certain amount of years of being the community partner, or?
So at this point, we established it to begin with, we set a 3-year mark, and so now we're at the 3-year mark. So at this point, everything is open for discussion. There is nothing that says when we have not all said, yes, we're going to move forward with community partners. I mean, it's a discussion, but we need to set the parameters, and that parameter could, this go around, it could be a yearly evaluation, not 3 years. So that is up for discussion right now as we develop the application that will go out at the end of the year. Okay, so I think this was a good discussion. I think I would like for especially committee members, but I welcome all council members to please take some more time, digest the comments and discussion today. And then if you would develop any criteria that you would like to see related around community partners, if you could put that in writing and provide it to me or a member of staff, ACA Thomas, will be happy to collect those. We're gonna look at our calendar right now. Today is September 16th. Our next Community Impact Grant meeting is on October 7th. I would ask that if possible, if you have any thoughts, that you could put them in writing and provide those to me or ACA Thomas by close of business September 26th. Yes, ma'am.
So just another question. I know you're asking for some criteria for the community partners, but are you open to any additional suggestions about the application as well to be submitted to you during that time, or you want that separate?
I think you can submit it. It's kind of depending on what the change may be, I think we'd have to have discussions, because some of it, where we are in time frame, if we change too much of it with a third-party evaluator, it's gonna throw us off. So I think you can give the feedback, and then staff can let us know if that's something we can address or not in the time frame.
Yeah, I think they're very, they're supportive questions or support questions to some of the ones that we already addressed.
Okay.
So it's not changing the content or omitting anything. It's more about just so that we can get, as Councilman Pugh mentioned earlier in our meeting, just getting some more information about their performance and their evaluation.
And is that related to community partners or
It's
just everybody?
related to everyone,
Okay,
anyone that submits an application.
okay. All right. Please submit whether it's community impact, partners, parameters, or if you have other thoughts related to the application, you can say them now, or you can please submit by September 26th. Day? Yeah, but if they had I didn't want to leave anybody out. If they want to say it right now, it's burning their chest. Okay. All right, so the rest of the pages in the packet, the remaining one are the application that you can walk through and review. And if you have any other questions or thoughts, please feel free to reach out. We are at, ACA Thomas is gone. Ms. Sherry Brown, do you have, oh, there she is. ACA Thomas, did you have anything else before we close out today? Thank you. Next is item 5, adjournment.
Second.
Motion is second for adjournment. Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Aaron, thank you.